taught you to hate the color of your skin? Who taught you to hate the texture of your hair? Who taught you to hate the shape of your nose and the shape of your lips? Who taught you to hate yourself from the top of your head to the soles of your feet? Who taught you to hate your own kind? Who taught you to hate the race that you belong to? So much so that you don't want to be around each other. No, before you come asking Mr. Muhammad, does he teach hate? You should ask yourself, who taught you to hate being what God gave you?
Most of us blacks, or Negroes as he called us, really thought we were free without being aware that in our subconscious, all those chains we thought had been struck off were still there. And there were many ways where what really motivated us was our desire to be loved by the white man. Malcolm meant to lance that sense of inferiority. He knew it would be painful. He knew that people could kill you because of it, but he dared to take that risk.
He was saying something over and above that of any other leader of that day. While the other leaders were begging for entry into the house of their oppressor, he was telling you to build your own house.
Is it fair to say, as a generality and as a succinct way to put it, that you believe in segregation of the races?
No, segregation is that which is, Mr. Muhammad says that segregation is that which is forced upon inferiors by superiors. Separation is done voluntarily by two equals. You never refer to the Oriental community in which Orientals live exclusively as a segregated community, because they live there voluntarily. Everything there is controlled by them. The economy, the politics, the civic organizations, but the Negro community is referred to as a segregated community because Negroes are forced to live in that community contrary to their will, and they don't control the businesses of their community. They don't control the politics of their community, nor their social life. White man doesn't even come into my attitude. Mr. Muhammad teaches us to love our own kind and let the white man take care of himself. For a white man today, sir, after kidnapping millions of black people from Africa, stripping them of all human characteristics and relegating them to the role of chattel or cattle or animals, commodity, merchandise that could be bought and sold at will, and then 100 years since the Emancipation Proclamation, using every type of deceptive method to further us into slavery, called second-class citizenship, I think that it would take a whole lot of nerve for white people today to ask Negroes, do they hate them?
Hooty-hoo, hooty-hoo. We back at it again. Sorry for the delay. A few technical difficulties as we try to stream on Facebook and on YouTube at the same time. I still got to tweak some stuff out because I'm used to hearing myself, and I may have to go back to wearing some headphones to hear myself. So I can know how the sound quality is. But all in all, welcome back to the No PC Show, Thursday night edition. We may eventually get back to doing some smaller shows on Tuesday nights. But tonight's show is called Integration, Separation, or Segregation. For those people that are on the Facebook side, sometimes you can't see, you may can hear, but a lot of times you can't see the graphics because you're over there on the Facebook side, which is fine, but we put a link in there, so if you want to come to the YouTube side, we have a chat in the YouTube side. You can see the phone number posted up on the screen. With that said, let's get to it. A lot of people are having these discussions nowadays, where we've always been having them, but I guess now they're more outward discussions. Integration, separation, or segregation. We here in America live in in Chicago, this is probably one of the most segregated cities in the world. Most of the murders and stuff happen on the south and west side, which is pretty much where we congregate at. But as Malcolm said, segregation is when a, quote, superior group forces an, quote, inferior group to live in a certain area, and they kind of rule over them. They control the politics and everything of that community, like we have now, where we're constantly looking for programs and things to help us, and they give us just enough to survive. This is the segregation that we live under. Separation, as Malcolm mentioned, is done voluntarily by two equal groups. And he used the Chinese community as an example. And I often quote Mr. Chan when he said, "We are the only people that fight to stay under our oppressor, and that's why we can't get any respect from anyone." And it's a true statement. We fight to be underneath them, but we don't know anything else, because that's the way we were conditioned for centuries to be under master. And so when they freed us, we didn't know what to do. I mean, a lot of us were not educated, had no money. Families were broken up, trying to get the families back together and struggle like that. So it was the perfect formula to mentally spend another 100 years in the Jim Crow era, further pushing us into segregation, further, keeping us apart and building America. So, and I'm only going to say this once. I may say it a couple of times. Black people should not be celebrating the 4th of July, especially this year. You got your voice. Tell them people, no, I'm not celebrating. For what? What are we celebrating? No. Celebrating the American flag and all this nonsense should be over for everybody. I haven't been doing it no way. But I'm hoping those that see this show and watch this show will not, under no circumstances, put a flag in your hand and wave it and declare all this patriotism to a country that has decided that you are a permanent underclass and unworthy of being celebrated. And that's just my the way I live, the way I like it. Be damned whoever doesn't like it. Integration. First, we tried separation. We got out of slavery. We saw the way that these people were continuing to treat us, really not letting us get ahead. So we start building our own towns and our own economics. We had our own doctors, lawyers, everything. We were self-contained. The money was staying inside the black community for 20 to 27 days, circulating among us. This was separation. And it was not just happening in Tulsa, Oklahoma. It was happening across the United States, in Florida, Texas, other places. So they didn't like that because, no, you can separate yourself, but you can't separate the money. No, we need that money, nigga, so we're going to have to destroy your system, and then we're going to have to make you start over again. Nobody's going to get prosecuted for this because it's just the way it is, niggas. So we tried separation. They would not allow us to have separation. We tried civil rights. We tried integration. And even Dr. Martin Luther King came to the thing like, with this integration, am I leading my people into a burning house? Because you can't legislate a man's heart. They can put out all the laws and rules they want to. Racists are racist. I tell white folks, and I say, no, black folks can't be racist, because racism is a white problem that you are putting on our doorsteps. We don't live next door to the racists. You live with the racists. That's Uncle Bob, Grandpa Jones, and all these other people that have perpetrated the evils onto black people throughout the centuries. And I know you don't want to look at Grandpa Jones and anybody else like that, but sorry, it is what it is. So we tried the integration with the civil rights movement. But then they started giving us programs. And these programs were designed to push segregation. Okay, we okay with you niggas living over there. But you better not come across this line. And you better not come across this line. And you definitely better not come across this line. We have given you a community that we have abandoned, that we have taken all the resources out of, that we continue to politic to remove you and take the money out and leave you in a condition of poverty. The projects originally were built to help as transitioning homes for mostly it was Polish immigrants. But as we moved into the projects in poverty, it became a death sentence, a trap, a prison of a sort, where now generations of people were living in these buildings. You can't stack that much poverty on top of each other. It creates desperation. It creates criminal activity. It mentally destroys you. It's almost like being in a prison as you look from in between those bars. But that's what we like. We segregated ourselves because our communities are still nicely policed. We're treated civilized. You animals, we put you in the zoo and then we call you animals. How about that? So you animals, you black people that didn't know any better, that didn't realize that if you continued your separation track, you might have been different. So who was wrong? Is there wrong? Because Malcolm and Martin were killed. They were talking about people, black people getting ahead. Martin was talking integration. Malcolm was talking separation. And, you know, let's get rid of I wish I had that clip loaded because everybody wants to say, well, when Malcolm came back from Mecca, he had a whole different program about integration. No, he didn't. He never said nothing about integration. He said, if we are able to have something with someone else, we got to be able to have it with ourselves. It cannot be any black and white unity until there's black unity. So stop all this Malcolm totally changed and had this whole new view nonsense, because it wasn't. He had a different view, but he had a freer view where he was not under the direction of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. He was able to speak his mind, and truth be told, the Muslims were not about politics. They really stayed out of the politics, and they wanted black people to separate and build a nation within a nation, which they successfully did to a certain degree. They had stores and businesses and things like this, and they still have independent schools and things. We, on the other hand, the masses, have chosen the integration piece. Well, we didn't choose it, but maybe our parents or our grandparents or somebody that came up through a different time frame and a different system said, hey, let's try this integration thing, you know. Let's work with the whiteys and see what we can get. And that kind of worked because they figured it was a little bit better. And then we got more blacks getting into education. And then you start thinking differently. It becomes classism. Then you start saying, if I send my kids to here, or here, then they'll have a better chance in life. But we dropped the ball because we didn't transfer the knowledge of what these devils do when you try to ascend, like Frederick Douglass said in one of his speeches, he says, as I go on my downward spiral, I am met with no resistance. But it is not until I try to ascend that I am met with all types of resistance and it's all types of resistance and threats, something like that. I'm just paraphrasing it. So the black man in society, no matter how much he tries to excel, and it's always going to be a few because that's the way the game has to go. We have to have a few excelling inside our environments. So we can say, look at him, look at Obama, look at this person, look at this person. But at the same time, you got to realize those people had to go through a whole bunch of tap dancing to get where they're at. Nobody makes it in their world without incarcerating to the system. You can watch the spook that's set by the door, and I think that's more of an approach that we should take of get into these circles. If we're trying to integrate, I don't see why, because integration was the worst thing that ever happened to black people. It's the worst. Now, we got all these white friends and stuff like that, and that's great, and you can be my friend as long as I can be black. When you got a problem with me being black or saying things black or digesting some things I say because I'm talking about the black experience, then we got a problem, right? I'm sorry, I'm trying to scroll down here. I hate this new Facebook stuff. Hate it. But they say, hated it. So when we choose to integrate, now we're integrating into school with these people. So now we're expected to adapt to everything that they want. Well, you want to be a good American. This is the new system. This is what we need you to do. Because you want to be like us. Now, we're going to charge you a higher interest rate. We're going to make you do all types of crazy thing and jump through loops. I remember buying this house where I live at now. And they said, we need you to write a letter on why you want to buy a house in this neighborhood. And if you don't write this letter, then we're going to have to look at that as you really don't want to live in this neighborhood. So this had to be some old 1950s, 60s law on the books for good old Negroes that want to live in a better area, that you must write a letter that convinces us, that helps us to understand what you want. Why do you want to live in such a nice area that we have built up? Because just as soon as a couple of y'all move in, we moving out. Because we don't want to live in the Coming to Africa movie. You're basically made to be a clone, or we're basically made to be a clone of white people. We're just black. Talking to a young person today, and I'm like, we don't have any culture. This stuff that we do here in America, this is what America put on us. We have no idea of what it means to be African. We look like them, but we don't understand. You know, we see a lot of bad things about Africa on TV, but they don't show you the glory of Africa. They don't show you how most Africans are educated, that having multiple degrees in Africa is expected, that they have a similar belief as other people that come to this country, but we don't have that same belief. Because what we've learned in this country, that even if we put ourselves in debt, that it still does not equate to anything to them, because as long as they're the bosses, as long as we're integrated into their system, as long as we've never set up our own system, then we're at the will of those people. Like Mr. Chan says, we do everything to stay under the oppressor. We do everything. That's what we do. So when we see these murders and things on TV and now everybody's so outraged, you've been seeing murders for years. You just conveniently had a way of pretending like you didn't see it, like you didn't believe it. You're thinking it's equality out here in the world for real. You don't believe that Uncle Buck is a racist, or Cousin Tommy is a racist, but ask Aubrey, who was chased down by 2 white men and murdered. He wasn't the first one. There's a constant line of the murdering of black people in the streets. Just like you see white people that do heinous things and they're taken into custody. That's because we chose to integrate. And now some of us are so integrated that we can't backpedal. We can't get out of it because our livelihood now has been locked in to those people. I cannot be with George. He's a great guy. He's helped me grow these businesses and everything, and I'm indebted to him. No, you're not. You just made a choice that says, look, I done ran the race this far. What, you want me to run all the way back and start a new race? I'm already here. I'm already on top. Let me do something different from this point, which is cool because that's what it's going to take. It's going to take black people on all levels to come together and say, I want to live in a community with my people. Not this segregated community that you put me in that's full of drugs and killings and murders. No, I want to live in a different type where we're in control of the economics, where we decide whose businesses get to be in the community, where we decide who teaches in our schools, where we control the environment. Well, we're giving you a chance to control the environment now in this segregated hellhole that we put you in. It's so bad that those that have succeeded don't even want to be around your own people. Now, it's not our problem that you niggas like to kill each other. It's got nothing to do with us because we're not doing that in our neighborhoods. We don't care that every store in the neighborhood is owned by somebody else other than the beauty shops and things like that. But that's your fault. You're the one that keeps spending your money with them instead of building your own. That's your fault. You're the one that said you wanted to be like us. We are the original sinners of the country. And we going to make you feel bad. We going to act real mad if you get to separate from us. You remember what happened last time you tried to separate? You remember Black Wall Street? No. You my nigga, and you ain't separating because you tied up. And all this injustice, that just compounds the whole issue. I'm happy that people are out in the street and voicing their opinions. I'm not too crazy about the white folks out in the street, but, you know, people say this is a necessary part for us to get what we want because it is impossible for anybody to hear us because we black, which says right there, your country is a racist country. They can't hear you, your black ass, unless some white person stands up and says, listen to him, listen, look, Black Lives Matter. They've known that from the very beginning. The only talk we want to hear now is reparations talk. Don't talk to us about bills that have been sitting out there for 40 years. Talking about, oh, well, we need to do a study to see if killing blacks and destroying them and taking them for their culture, has that any effect on the Negroes today? We made it better for them by destroying them. This is the nonsense that we have to deal with on a daily basis. Oh, we're not trying to make white people feel bad about whatever. We're just trying to say, here's the truth. So if the truth sets us free, then get ready to pay a black tax. And let's get that real reparations in America. Let's get all these little student loans forgiven. Let's get money for training, money for factories, free money. Taxpayer money, because we paying taxes anyway, so let's go ahead and get that money, run it on back to the black communities. But we got to be ready when these type of things happen. We got to be ready. We got to know what we want. I don't believe in anybody getting money put in their hand. I mean, if you worked your time and you've already retired, I think you should get a couple of $1 million to sit back and relax and enjoy your life. If you haven't retired, you should have an opportunity. If you got student loans and things like that sitting out there, well, we need to go ahead and erase that for you and give you money to go back for additional training. If you want to open a business or whatever, we should fund that so you can help build your communities. Oh, this is so unfair. Why are you all trying to uplift black people? You're going to try to do this and do this? When people say that, they have discounted the 300 years of slavery in this country and the additional 100 years of Jim Crow. They're probably an undercover racist because all they see is the surface and how unfair it is to us now. Okay, well, how unfair was it to us? How destructive was it to us? It's easy to cry and moan now because your country has not admitted to its original sin and has not made it right. Reparations means to repair. You ain't repaired us, and you don't want to repair us, as my teacher, Mr. Phillips, said back in 1983, Mr. Robinson. Why would they do anything to help you? You're the underclass. If I want you to stay the underclass, then I don't need to help you. We got to raise people in a different way. We got to raise them in power. We have to not be afraid to say what we want to say. And everybody's having these fits now about the LGBTQZY community. But I had that discussion with my daughter. She's like, well, everybody deserves these rights. I said, let me tell you something about everybody and the rights in America. We deserve our rights. So I don't have time for nobody else's rights because we've been waiting on our rights for 400 years. And, you know, after we get our rights, I'm going to be concerned about your rights, LGBTQ. I'm going to be concerned about your right, my Hispanic brothers from Mexico. I'm going to be concerned about your rights, women over here with rights. We're talking about a crime, the biggest crime against humanity ever on this planet was perpetrated by the ones right here that we still sit among and we still suffer under. And they need to make amends, and we have no time for all the other blah, blah, blah that people have been going through. Oh, well, it's been 10 years since we started our track to help LGBT. Yeah, and in the past 10 years, you all have gotten some amazing accomplishments. I used this analogy with my daughter, and I hope that it brought it home to her. I said, you talking about all these rights. I said, let me explain something to you so you can get it. The same people that they're claiming are oppressing them are the same people that oppress us. But guess what happens in corporate settings? And this is what a firm I used to work at. I would often come in the morning at 7 a.m. and go into a conference room, and there would be all this LGBTQ literature all over the place. So they were given the opportunity to come and build and express themselves, and in a high profile corporate office, top 20 law firm. I said, what would happen if I wanted to have a black meeting in that same room? Right. They look at me like I'm crazy, because how dare you want to do something to uplift your community and expect me to support and be behind you like I'm behind the LGBTQ. Because they rather say, my gay brother, my gay sister, my gay uncle, everybody's being oppressed. Black man, you don't have anything to complain about. You've got it all. When we say you got it all. That's the BS that we're fighting against. We're not fighting against any LGBTQ. I could give a damn less what rights you get. Get them all, whatever you want, partnership. I don't give a damn. I don't want you marrying your LGBTQ up to the black struggle. I just don't want it. Now, if you want to walk along with us and say, hey, support these black people, so that's great. Everybody's in the street. And until we get ours, and I hope everybody understands this and doesn't take it personal, because we haven't taken it personal for the last 400 years. We want our reparations. Period. That should be the discussion. You shouldn't be out here this weekend barbecuing hot dogs and all this other nonsense that goes along with it. I may do a live broadcast, and I'll probably be playing some Public Enemy, some X-Clan, some Goody Mob. I'm probably going to be doing a lot of, because that's what I do on that day. Because why would I be doing, and my shop is open, so I will be open from 9 to 1, and then I'm going to come home and turn on my X-Clan and all that, and I'm just going to relax. And I'm not going to think about America's sin. And I'm not going to be out here screaming happy, what they call it, happy 4th of July. Yeah, we need to send a big message, because Kaepernick still ain't got no job. All these owners are still tripping. So if there was ever a time in the history of being black in America that there's a chance to get something, and we've missed a lot of chances to just force it ourselves because of economic fears and retaliations, this is now the perfect time to speak up, speak out, step out, and be who you are. Hold your power fists up. And look at your brother, and always look at your brother and be your brother's keeper, and say, love, peace, soul. We out of here.
Step out of the car.
No, you don't have the right.
Step out of the car.
You do not have the right to do that.
I do have the right. Now step out or I will remove
I
you.
refuse to talk to you other than to identify myself.
Step
Now if you're woman, ain't no revolutionary should persuade you to be a fucking slave for the rest of your days. Should be grooming you on how to behave, teaching you how to coon and buck dance so that you can be safe. If that brother ain't no rider, soldier, no provider, molder of young minds, check it out, you got yourself a bitch. Think about the time that you invested in him. If he's wearing them skinny jeans, you a lesbian. For every 100 black women who ain't locked up, it's only 83 black men remain. Take away 1.5 million black men who might have benefited their women and their children. You don't know a war when it's waged against you, when it makes you drive your baby mama to the clinic just to kill your own. Ain't no legacy to leave behind, cause ain't nobody sitting on your throne. You motherfuckers are asleep in a war zone, living a nightmare, dying in your own home. If you don't stop, you gon' lose what you got left. I'd rather die trying to fight for my last breath. Freedom or death, you asleep in a war zone, living a nightmare, dying in your own home. If you don't fight, you gon' lose what you got left. I'd rather die trying to fight for my last breath. Freedom or death, nigga. Sandra Bland was a rider. She wouldn't have committed suicide, and you a motherfucking liar. It would not be wise to stop when you hear sirens and you see the police behind you, but you don't wanna die. They gon' shoot you if you run. They gon' say that you was going for the police gun. That's why they like 120 times, but you were still coming, so they put another bullet in your lung. Them devils got you praying while they murder, because they know you on that bullshit. They steady with them full clips and body armor. They kill your women in the street, cause they figure you too weak to do anything about it. You some shit, getting fucked in your sleep. They poison you every time you brush your teeth. You don't care, you behave like a slave. A bitch from the cradle to the grave, on your knees with your hands out, begging cause you want to. You motherfuckers are asleep in a war zone, living a nightmare, dying in your own home. If you don't stop, you gon' lose what you got left. I'd rather die trying to fight for my last breath. Freedom or death, you asleep in a war zone, living a nightmare, dying in your own home. If you don't fight, you gon' lose what you got left. I'd rather die trying to fight for my last breath. Freedom or death, nigga.